Hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. Myself Nitin K. Biju. I'll be appearing for the civil service interview this year. Now coming to the contents page, today we'll be discussing about 7 important Hindu articles in the newspaper today. Before moving to the first article, please try to pause for a second and try to attempt the question by yourself. After discussing the relevant article, we'll be coming back to the question again. Coming to the first article. South Asia faces health crisis as children miss vaccination. So, the South Asian region, it could face a further public health crisis as the children are missing the routine vaccination as the UN has warned. So, which is this UN organization which has warned? It is UNICEF. It is the United Nations Children's Agency, that is UNICEF, said that hundreds of thousands were at risk as lockdowns across South Asia halted immunization drives and parents refraining from taking their children to doctors to be inoculated. Right. Also, Bangladesh and Nepal have halted their measles and rubella campaigns, while Pakistan and Afghanistan have suspended their polio drives since the COVID-19 pandemic. So, if the vaccinations are not taken, then the children will be susceptible to these diseases, right? And thus, it will create a further health issue in the future. That is what the article is talking about. Also, there is another issue. The stocks are running low. The vaccine stocks are running low in some countries because of the lockdown and the travel bans which have disrupted the supply chains of the vaccine delivery, right? So the agency has also estimated that around 4.5 million of South Asia's children had already missed out a routine immunization even before the pandemic struck. So before the pandemic itself, the backlog was around 4.5 million children. So now it would have increased multifold, right? Also, Afghanistan and Pakistan were already struggling to vaccinate children as the local population viewed the inoculation teams with suspicion. This has especially increased after the situation where the CIA of America, they organized a fake vaccination drive to help track down Al Qaeda's Osama bin Laden, right? So uh, you might remember that Osama bin Laden was hiding in Abbottabad. So, using a fake vaccination drive, the US was able to track Osama bin Laden, right? So, due to these issues and the community believes that vaccinations are bad or something, so the vaccination drives are already running low. So, this is the issue discussed in this article. Now, here it becomes important for us to discuss about India's vaccination program, that is the Universal Immunization Program. So, it is a vaccination program launched by the government of India in 1985. So, under this program, there are vaccinations for 12 diseases. They are tuberculosis, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, poliomyelitis, measles, hepatitis B, diarrhea, Japanese encephalitis, rubella, pneumonia, and pneumococcal diseases. Okay, now I would like to give you a homework, that is, please read about Mission Indradhanush and Mission Indradhanush 2.0. Okay, so see what is the difference from this UIP and all, and try to mention it in the comment section below. Now coming to the next article. $1.5 billion ADB loan to fund COVID response. So, an organization, the bank, Asian Development Bank, has decided to give 1.5 billion loan to India to help fight the COVID pandemic. The government of India has taken the loan of this much from the Asian Development Bank as its immediate response to COVID-19. The bank is also in talks with the government to fund further stimulus measures, for example, to support the MSME industries and for extending health services through public-private partnerships, PPP. Also, the money, which is more than around 11,000 crore, it will be spent to implement the containment plan as well as rapidly ramp up the test, track, treatment capacity of India. Now, continuing the same article, it will also be used to provide social protection for 80 crore people over the next 3 months. Also, now the loan is approved under the ADB CARES program, CARES, which stands for COVID-19 Active Response and Expenditure Support Program. and it is the bank's largest ever to India. So here I would like you to be careful about one confusion here. You might have already heard about PM Cares Fund of India, right? So PM Cares Fund of India is different from the ADB Cares program. PM Cares is PM Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situations Fund. It is a fund, right? But this is a program, that is COVID-19 Active Response and Expenditure Support Program, and it is of ADB. Can be asked as a prelims question. Don't get confused between the both. Okay. Also, the center will also take the ADB's technical support to strengthen its implementation framework and capacities to deliver the 1.7 lakh crore welfare package which the center has announced. We already know that under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, the government has already announced 1.7 lakh crore of welfare package to fight the COVID pandemic. Now, the center will also ask for the support, technical support of ADB also, right? So this is all about this article. So here we have to learn about one important, very important international organization, that is Asian Development Bank. So it is it is a regional development bank. It was established in 1966, and coming to the members, US and China are the I'm sorry, US and Japan are the main members of ADB, and its headquarters is in Philippines, that is Manila. Okay. So what is the aim of ADB? To promote social and economic development in Asia. And this is the map of ADB. Here you should focus on one very important thing. Though the name is Asian Development Bank, it consists of members outside Asia also. You can see that US is a member, Canada is a member, and some European countries are members, right? So there are countries which are outside Asia also who are members into this organization. Coming back to the practice question we discussed earlier, consider the following about Asian Development Bank. The headquarters of ADB is in Beijing. Second statement, ADB consists members only from Asia. So which of the above statements are correct? We know that the headquarters of ADB is in Manila, Philippines. So the first statement is wrong. Second statement, ADB consists members only from Asia. It is also wrong because there are US is a member, European countries are members. So the answer is option D, all of the above. Here you have to ensure that you don't get confused between ADB and AIIB. AIIB is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is a Chinese initiative. So that belongs to China. Okay. So don't get confused between these two banks. Okay. Coming to the next article. NITI Aayog slams India's terror ranking. So the news is that there is a report. A report is compiled by the NITI Aayog. It has questioned the methodology adopted by an Australian-based institute to rank India as 7th worst terrorist affected country. So which is that institute which ranked, that Australian-based institute? It is Institute of Economics and Peace. The report also questions the opaque funding of the Institute of Economics and Peace. So what is the issue here? The issue here is that, see, when India comes at this in the 7th rank in global terrorism index, then definitely it will affect the investments and other opportunities which the country has. The economic opportunity, the people, the foreign businesses won't like to invest here when the terrorism ranking is so high, right? So India wants to know, NITI Aayog wants to know what is the basis, what is the methodology used for this ranking, and who is funding this organization. For both of these queries, the Institute of Economics and Peace have not responded as of now. Also, last year, India's position was in 8th, and now this year in this Global Terrorism Index GTI 2019, it has increased to 7th position. Also, okay, and giving a background to it, in March, the Cabinet Secretariat has already asked the NITI Aayog to identify those 32 global indexes to see how could it help drive reforms and growth. So while analyzing various indices, the NITI Aayog found that this indices, that is the Global Terrorism Index, it has actually affected the investment and other opportunities which the country has, right? So coming to, and as you all know, indices are very important for prelims perspective. Every year there will be a report and there will be a question on who releases this particular index or report. So we have to learn about the indices and reports here. So Institute of Economic and Peace, that is organization. It is a global think tank headquarters in Sydney, Australia. We have already seen that it is an Australian based think tank. And the indices which are released by this organization are Global Peace Index, Global Terrorism Index, and Positive Peace Index. So try to remember it something like it is more related with terrorism, peace, and all. Okay, so try to remember in that manner. And even in the name of the organization, it is mentioned Institute for Economics and Peace. So if any index comes about peace, Global Peace Index or something, just try to guess it as IEP, Institute for Economics and Peace. Now coming to the editorial of the day, signaling support. Signaling support. The editorial is about the RBI's liquidity facility, which has been told yesterday or day before yesterday, to ensure that the mutual funds does not face any liquidity crisis. So for that, the RBI has started repo operations of around 50,000 crore, which we have discussed this in detail in yesterday's article. Let's go through this anyway. So the measure, the special facility to ensure the availability of adequate liquidity for the mutual funds, it is a timely step by the RBI. It will help in preserving the financial stability. Also, it will help to reduce any buildup of liquidity strains at the mutual fund houses in the wake of the heightened volatility of the capital markets, as well as the increasing redemption pressures as a fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. So what is this redemption pressure? Redemption pressure means the people who have invested money in the mutual funds, they want it back. Okay, even before the maturity date. So that is that is called redemption pressures. So what was the issue here? The trigger for this move was the last week announcement by Franklin Templeton Mutual Funds that it was winding up 6 debt funds that combines to around 26,000 crores. So this Franklin Templeton, it is a mutual fund it is a mutual fund organization, and they wind up around 6 debt funds, thinking that in order to preserve the value of the mutual fund in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, while the facility, that is the 50,000 crore facility, it is a straightforward 90 days repo based lending window. We all know what is this repo based lending. The RBI will give money to the bank at a particular interest rate. That interest rate is called as repo rate, right? So RBI is giving money to bank, and the banks will be giving it to the mutual funds. So banks play an important role here. So but the issue is that whether the banking industry is willing to expose itself to the credit risk, because as we all know, in this COVID-19 pandemic, the mutual funds won't be able to repay it back. So the banks have a higher risk of NPAs, non-profitable assets, which are already high in the banks. So whether the banks will be ready to take the risk, that is to forward the money given by the RBI to the mutual funds. So that remains a question here. So the RBI has understood this issue, and they have tried to relax the norms, and the RBI was trying to incentivize the bank to lend more money. Okay, so the specific measures we don't have to see. Anyway, the banking sector, it is already beset by bad loans, so they need some incentives to lend to the mutual funds. So that is what this article is talking about. Also, moreover, with the economy still in a lockdown and the credit ratings of even relatively well established company facing a real and not too distant threat of downgrades, how willing would be banks to use this facility to lend to debt mutual funds remains to be seen. So that we have already discussed here. Now, coming to the concept here, what is a mutual fund? A mutual fund is a type of financial vehicle made up of a pool of money collected from many investors to invest in the securities. So me being an investor, I don't know where to invest. As if assume that I want to invest, but I don't know where to invest. Which companies are doing well, which companies share is going up down. I don't know about all these things. So what will I do? I'll go and invest in a mutual fund. And the mutual fund will invest for me. They knows that okay, which all companies are doing well, which all shares will go high. So based on all these calculations, they will invest for the investors on the behalf of the investors. So mutual funds are a mediatory. So the securities which mutual fund invest are equity, bonds, and hybrids. Okay, what is equity? Equity is the per, it is investing in the shares of the company. That is, when there is a profit, the profit will be divided on basis of the percentage of the equity hold. But whereas what is bonds are like, it is like fixed return instruments. There is very less risk involved. Like if you invest this much money, you will be getting 8% or 7%, whatever is the interest rate. You will be 7, that fixed interest rate you will be getting every year. But in case of equity, the interest rate which you might get, it varies depending on the ups and lows in the market. And hybrid securities are a mix of both. There is a fixed variable as well as there is a the fixed part is also there, the variable part is also there. Both equities and bond combine together to form hybrid. So this is the concept of the mutual fund. Investors will pool their money. The fund manager, that is the mutual fund, he will invest in the securities, and when the securities generate the returns are passed to the investors. So please try to use this diagram in the mains answer writing, so that you will be getting the extra marks. Okay. Now, what is this Franklin Templeton issue? We have already discussed it. Yesterday also we have discussed it. It is a mutual fund. It is a US based mutual fund. It has voluntarily decided to wind up its 6 debt schemes, citing redemption pressure and lack of liquidity in the bond markets due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have already seen what is this redemption pressure. Redemption pressure, it describes the repayment of any money market fixed income security at or before the asset's maturity date. So before the asset matures, before the bond matures, the investors want to take it back. So that is called as redemption. So when every investors want to take the money back from the mutual fund, what will happen? The mutual fund won't have sufficient money to give it back. So the liquidity crisis will happen. So the RBI has presently gave around 50,000 crore to avoid this liquidity issue, right? Now coming to the next editorial, no end in sight. So there are some statistics here. It took 94 days to reach 1 million novel coronavirus in the world, but to double it to 2 million, it took around 12 more days only. So 94 to 12 days, and to increase it to again 3 million cases, it took another 12 days. Okay, so this is telling about the fast spread of the virus, right? Also, the true numbers of the infections will definitely be higher, as most countries have not been testing people who have mild symptoms. For example, in US also, they are telling that the people who have mild symptoms or does not meet the criteria will not be tested. Even in case of India also, the testing is low, right? So while the cases have declined in Europe, there's an uptick in Africa and South America also. So countries like Africa, which were previously less affected, now there is an increase there also. But the fastest spread is still remains in the US, with around 0.99 million cases there, and the deaths are also very high there. The New York City itself has 17,515 deaths, which is much higher than even the infection rates of many countries, right? Also coming to India, India has reported around 30,300 cases and 973 deaths. Oh, and among those, around 8,600 cases are from Maharashtra alone. Okay, and even coming to Dharavi, as you all know, Dharavi is a very crowded place. It has biggest slums, right? So it has only 330 cases and 18 deaths. This is a very serious concern because there is a population which is very high there, and they live in a very crowded situation. Their physical distancing is close to impossible, right? So because of that, the situation in Dharavi is very concerning. In this context, the article is telling that India should look at the experience of Singapore. So what happened is, initially Singapore was appreciated very much for containing the pandemic. But now what happened? The cases in Singapore is also rising. Why it is rising? Because fresh cases have been reported from dormitories that house around 0.2 million migrant workers from other countries. 0.2 million means around 2 lakhs. So around 2 lakh million migrant workers, they were in a dormitory, and the cases are rising due to infections in that place. So here the situation is similar to Dharavi, where people are also living congested in a lakhs of people are living congested in a small area. So what happened is, now in that place nearly 1500 cases have been reported as of now in April 28th, that is in Singapore. So what happened, though Singapore was initially able to control the pandemic, now Singapore, the cases are rising very high due to this congested dormitories. So India should learn from this failure of Singapore, so that it doesn't happen to India. So that is what the editorial is discussing about. Now coming to Dharavi. Dharavi is a locality in Mumbai, Maharashtra. It's considered to be Asia's largest slums. So the congestion of the area can be seen from the fact that in an area over just 2.1 square kilometers, a population of around 7 lakh people are living. It is a very huge population. You can see here that the population density, it will come to around 2 lakh, 2.7 lakh people per square kilometer. See how much, how high the density is. I would like you to just go back to the static part. Just try to find out what is India's average population density and just compare it with Dharavi's population density. I hope the comparison, after finding the comparison, try to please comment in the comment box so that other people might also see. So this is a picture of the Dharavis. You can see that the area is very much congested. So if one person gets a COVID here, it will just spread like anything. It will spread like anything because physical distancing is not possible here. So already the cases are 330, and out of the 330 cases, 18 people have already died. So this might become a very big issue in the future. Now coming to the next article, a task for South Asia. South Asia, which is one of the most populous regions, it is also affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know. While the death rates in these places may not be as alarming as in US and Europe, but the damage is big enough, right? Now, coming to the issues with South Asia has a poor health system. They have invested very little in health and they have very low health parameters also. Also, the governments have also gave the duty of the health to the private sectors. And what the private sector does, it wants profit. So having become an industry, the focus of the healthcare in the private sector is on profit rather than on people's needs. Though the private sector has both advanced technology and expertise, the high cost of treatment in the private sector have resulted in impoverishment of the population, and the out of pocket expenditure have increased. We all know that the out of pocket expenditure in India, it's more than 60%, right? So that is a big issue in all the South Asian countries. Also, the South Asian countries also face other issues such as hunger, malnutrition, poor sanitation, large scale migration. Also, there are infectious diseases like TB, HIV, malaria, dengue, chikungunya, etc. Also, the region is also an epicenter of lifestyle diseases. What are the lifestyle diseases? The diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, etc. Right? Also, the apart from the health issue, there are internal and external conflicts in South Asia. They consume a large portion of the national budget, but also they divert the attention of the public and policymakers from health issues. As we have already seen in yesterday's video, the defense budget of the South Asian countries are very high. For example, yesterday we have seen that in India's case, in yesterday's article, we have seen that India's case, the defense budget is around 70 billion every year, right? And it comes to around 2.4% of the GDP. In case of Pakistan, it is around 10 billion, and it comes to around 4% of the Pakistan's GDP. So the defense budget, due to the conflicts existing here, the defense budgets are very high. Thus the health budget has suffered here. Also, there's another issue here. Religion continues to occupy a central space in the society and the politics of the region. As we all know, during the recent festival, many people have refused to sit in home. So they have go to the religious congregations, the mosque and all, and it has resulted in the community spread of the virus in countries like Pakistan. But India was able to control it. Okay, so in countries like Pakistan, they were not able to do that. Also, on the other hand, the Tablighi Jamaat congregation, it was used to it was used by some communal elements to increase tensions in the society. So religion is a main feature of the societies of the South Asia. That is what the article is trying to say. Now, a silver lining. The silver lining is that the COVID-19 has forced us to seriously reflect on our healthcare system. Now we should seize this opportunity. We should seize this opportunity to increase investment in the public health system rather than investing in things like defense and all, right? So for that, only a country should, like, if only India decides, it won't be of any use, because if India decides to reduce its defense budget, then other countries will find it advantageous. So the South Asia as a whole should decide on it. And which organization can help this? The SARC. The SARC is a South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, right? So the SARC heads of the country, which have already offered to help each other, they should combine together. They should come together, and there should be a regional strategy. Only a regional strategy will have a better chance of fighting the COVID pandemic rather than isolated nation level efforts, right? So also, it's already, there are researches going on why South Asian countries are having less infection rates compared to US and Europe. Many say that it is due to the BCG vaccine, which everyone takes during the childhood. BCG vaccine is taken against tuberculosis, right? So that research also is going on. So the South Asian countries themselves can come together. The SARC can start a research on BCG vaccines, how it has helped to reduce the infections in South Asia. So there are many reasons why the India countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh can come together and be be together in this COVID pandemic, right? Also, we should ensure that we have to uphold science as the guiding principle of policy rather than fake cures, unethical experimentation, and quackery. We have seen many people telling that if you do this, corona will go. If you do that, corona will go. Okay, so these kind of fake cures should be avoided, and science should be the only guiding principle. So that is what the article is talking about. Coming to the last article, ministry does a U-turn on plasma therapy. So what happened? Till yesterday, we were talking about convalescent plasma therapy, how it can be used in the best manner possible to recover the people who are struggling from COVID-19. So now the ministry says that plasma therapy is not an approved therapy, not an approved treatment for COVID-19, and it is only one of the several therapies which are being explored, right? So the ICMR has not given any clearance for its use as a prescribed treatment, and the misuse can have more issues. It can have fatal outcomes for the patient. So this is what the article is trying to say. So it also says that the evidence is not sufficient to uh, confirm whether plasma therapy helps or not. The ICMR has already launched a national level study to look into the efficacy of the plasma therapy in the treatment of COVID-19. So what is this plasma therapy about? The recovered COVID-19 patients, they will come forward to donate their blood, because since they are already recovered, the antibody in their body, antibodies will be present in their body. So that antibodies can be used to help the people who are suffering from COVID-19 as of now. So here it is mentioned here, I have just mentioned it separately here. People who are recovered from COVID-19 have antibodies to the diseases in their blood. So doctor called this as convalescent plasma. Okay, so the name convalescent plasma, please try to understand the definition of it. Also, researchers hope that the convalescent plasma can be given to people with severe COVID-19 to boost their ability to fight the virus. So that is all about convalescent plasma. So I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and press the bell icon so that you will get instant updates. Have a nice day. Thank you.